Fasting. Why you can't lose weight. The dreaded scale. Hello, everyone. My name is Al Person. Back to our conversation on fasting and weight loss and so on. We're going to hop into yet another topic. I hope you enjoy this playlist. This is really a reflection of my own journey, but also because of that, people repeatedly say, well, can you help me? How can I get over this? And so on. So this is all the wisdom I've gathered for your conversation. And there's some good little nuggets here from being a very heavy guy, lean, and so on. You don't need to hear my story. Let's just pop straight in and go from there. So one of the most important things to understand is what is the relationship between what we consume, what our weight is. It seems to be completely obvious. It's totally reasonable to do that. You know, people will measure everything in their lives. They will count their money in their bank account. They'll just constantly check. I don't know how many plates are in the cupboard or whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Fuel efficiency of their cars, electricity bill, and so on. But there seems to be a hesitation constantly, and I've seen this on each side of the weight issue, to measure what we consume. It just seems just really, really odd. Now, do I believe that calories are the only contributor to weight gain or weight loss? No, I don't. But certainly, there's got to be a place to start for many of us. We've got to say, I just have to have some kind of reference point. Now, with what I know today, if I needed to control my weight up or down, and I just didn't know where I was, I would be onto this immediately. No, I don't need to do that anymore. Personally, my weight is where I want it to be. I want to get rid of that last little bit of old, very hard to move fat around the middle and get myself back to a 32-inch waist, which will be, I'm up 34 and getting down there, but basically I'm in that very normal range now. Take a bit of advice from me and see what you think. Now, why are people afraid to measure? Why are we afraid to do that? Well, I have kind of a sense about that, and that is that the thing that got us to the place we're in is something we have grown comfortable with. How's that? So I might not be comfortable with my underweight or my overweight scenario, whatever. I said, this is just wrong. Maybe I know I need to get my weight up a couple, 5 or 10 kilos because I'm just way too lean. Maybe I need to get it down some, which is the biggest problem really that we see the most common, but it's on each side. I'm not comfortable with that problem. One of the reasons we may have that problem is that we've grown comfortable with an eating and a dieting regime, and it suits us. We're very comfortable with it, and we don't want it to change. However, change comes in our lives by dealing with comfort and sacrificing comfort, and it's this constant. What should I say? It is an exchange, really. It's this constant compromise between how much comfort am I prepared to get rid of, and how much change do I want? Does that make sense? Am I making sense here? If I want more change, I'm going to have to run the risk of having less comfort, at least in the short term. And I think this is the reason that we don't want to measure our food. I think this is the reason why. Okay, so I'm going to encourage you to do some things. We'll put some slides up here, and I want you to think about things. There are some measurements that I believe we need to take if we need to get our head around what's going on with our bodies. The first thing is measure or account for the value, record the value of everything that we're eating and drinking, and when we do it. This is also really, really important, much more than what you think it is. But let's take a step back. There's a number of easy to access calculators on the internet that will help you to determine what sort of calories you should be consuming. Are calories everything? No. Before we say too much negative about calories, for the vast majority of people trying to adjust their weight or their energy level, calories are it. Now, you can have poor quality calories. You can have Coke and chocolate, which is high calorific value, but it's like no nutrition. I understand that. But for most people who've got at least moderate nutrition, the adjustment of calories is the first thing that works in controlling their weight. There are videos out there that say calories don't count or whatever. I appreciate that. Yes, for some people they don't, but for most of us, that's what it is. A calorie is a unit of heat. Let me just show you a slide here, and let's see. Am I ready to go? Yep. Okay, so on to no. Here we go. This is from calculator.net. You can find this on Google. There's a lot of different versions of this. I wanted to determine what my calorific requirements were at my age and weight and so on. So I popped in my age, 64, my height, 180 centimeters, and my weight, 85 kilos. So my weight varies between 82, 87, so it's picked at 85. What's my activity? So my activity is intense exercise 6 to 7 times a week. Very active, okay? And so with that in mind, what did the system say when I plugged in those values? It said that to maintain my weight, I would need to consume 2,864 calories, okay? Mild weight loss, whatever, 2,600. Weight loss, 2,300. Extreme weight loss, 1,864. And of course, when you fast for 4 or 5 days, you're much less than 1,864, aren't you? Now, this is really, really useful. I would like to ask you to think about this if you're struggling with weight on either side of the equation. Have you ever done this? Have you ever said, what would the calorific requirements be? What actually do I need to take in? Now, is this fully accurate? Well, no, it's an indication because we're all different. Now, there are, and you can see this in the way that we're built as well. It's I was on the train the other day, and there was a lady who got on the train before me who was smaller build than my wife. My wife is not a big girl. She's much smaller than my wife. And she came and stood next to a man who was a head taller than me, and I'm tall. It's like, wow, and this guy must really be struggling, constantly having to dip his head to move in and out of the train or doorways or whatever. And then I looked at the immense difference between these two, and over to the right, to my right, was a woman who was smaller again than this lady who came on the train with me. I hadn't seen her before. And I looked at the difference in size between these two. There's amazing variations in the human family. Now behind him stood a man who was my height, but he was a bit overweight. But even if he was even if he'd lost and was very, very thin, he would have had broader shoulders than me, bigger bone structure, bigger feet, and so on and so forth. Everything was bigger. And so you have a lot of these variations. And these calorific counters can't take everything into consideration, okay? But they're a very, very good start. Okay, so the first thing I would be doing, very, very first thing I would be doing if I needed to get my weight up or down, get onto one of these and say, what's my calorific requirement? Then I would keep a diary on paper. You can do it on a computer if you want. I prefer paper. I guess I'm just 64, as the slide said. And I would record everything that went into my mouth that wasn't water, okay? Everything, tea, coffee, whatever. Now, I would also record things that taste sweet but aren't sweet. What do I mean? Diet things, diet drinks, diet whatever. For some people, and I think more than what we're prepared to admit, just the sweet taste causes an insulin spike. The body anticipates sugar, in which case your body's trying it's stopping the burn off, it's trying to drive energy into the cells because it says, here comes the sugar, right? Here it comes, and you will stop burning off. Think about that. Isn't it interesting that maybe having a Diet Coke or a Diet Pepsi, despite all the other nasty stuff that's in it, right, at 9 o'clock in the morning is enough to stop the burn off and stop you from losing weight and draining your energy because there's no energy available at the time because let's say you're not eating for a while. Isn't it fascinating when you think about that? Amazing. Okay, so the first thing, no matter what goes in, I need to know the time. Now from there, and I do how much and the time. So if I'm drinking coffee, put it in there, hot chocolate, stick it in there, right? How long will I have to do that? We'll talk about that in a moment. Not too long, but you'll know what's going on. The process I would begin with is just record and weigh, just record everything. Why do I have pictures of the scale there? Well, a lot of us need to just simply weigh stuff. Just how much does this weigh? And we can break it down later. So my process would simply be that I would just calculate, I would just simply record it. So maybe I had lasagna, what's the lasagna weigh? Maybe I had a sandwich, what does it weigh? Now you can't always take a scale with you to a restaurant, but you know what I'm talking about. You get an idea. You know, my audience is smart, not dumb, right? And maybe I had a banana. Okay, well I can say this is a standard banana. Might even want to weigh it, I don't know. And I would do that, and I would record it. I would then, once I'd done all of that, I would then Analyze that data. When? Probably about once a week, maybe more. I don't know. Whatever suits, whatever. If you've got time, you can. If you've got time to browse the internet, you've got time to care for your health. All right. And I would break the weight down and the things I'd eaten into 3 categories. And I'll put those categories on the screen. We call those macros because that's the most important, or the next most important thing that we need. Let's pop these on the screen here. And what you want to do is take the things that you're eating and break those things down into proteins, fats, and carbs. This relationship. Okay. Now we're not talking about natural proteins or plant or animal fats or whatever yet. That's a conversation that I'll probably do a little later because we'll talk about what can be digested and what can't. But this would be the next thing that I would do, and I strongly recommend if you're on the low, if you need to get your weight to a normal place, this is that first thing. First of all, measure everything, then analyze it and break those things down. Now, how can you do that? How can you do that if, for example, you've got a packet of food and you just don't know how it's broken down? Well, you've recorded that in your diary. And maybe what you could do is take a photo of the nutritional breakdown. How accurate is the nutritional breakdown on processed food? Probably not very accurate, but at least it's some kind of indication. Okay? It's just some kind of indication as to where you're going. And what I'd want to do then is I'd want to accumulate an understanding of how many carbs I'm eating, what sort of fats I'm eating, what sort of protein. The other thing that I would be recording is the calorific value of those things. Well, where can I get that from? Well, if you have a box of a chocolate bar, for example, somewhere on there it should show you the estimated calories from the chocolate bar. You can also pop onto the internet, pop the thing in, and you can get a rough idea of the calories. A rough idea. Most drinks have a calorific breakdown on them, and so on. And so I'd want to record the calories. Remember, that's where we started. I want to know where my calories are. Some of you are going to find something very interesting. That even though there's too much of you, you're too large, your calorific intake is very low. Well, why am I not losing weight? This is the timing question that we talk so much about. By consuming little bits of the wrong kind of food all day long, your body never gets to that weight loss process, so you get nothing but frustrated. Okay? Now, for some people, that 6 small meals a day works very, very well. There's some metabolisms that'll just adjust, bam, just like that. I can tell you, it does not work for me. Okay, I need a period of time where I, fast the blood sugar and the blood salt and all that down, and then I start to lose weight. But for others, no problem at all. Okay, so we need to find out what's going on with our bodies. This in itself scares a lot of people. A significant number of my friends are simply afraid to do this work. And I think I understand why. I think it has to do with the fact that, first of all, they'll have a clear explanation for their health problems. Secondly, they're going to have to sacrifice and deal with things they did not really want to deal with. Okay? So let's just wrap this one up here. This is not really so much a fasting discussion, but back on the weight adjustment thing. The first thing anybody should do who needs to get and make a change is do some measuring. Now, you do it with your bank account, don't you? If you're not paying the bills, unless your head is in the sand, you pay a big price for that. You say, what's my budget? Where am I losing all this money? What's happening? And you do that. Well, the same immediate initial test is what goes in here. All right. I hope you enjoyed this today. This is one of those conversations. If you want some more detail on this, you can contact me. This is a very simple topic. If you ever notice something about the issues of life, most of the problems and most of the difficulties that we have over long periods of time come because we ignore the simple things. Isn't that fascinating? Isn't it just really, really interesting? It's not the complexities of some tiny little nutrient we may be missing. It's pretty much usually because there's something very simple and very obvious that we have stopped doing. My name is Al Person. You should know that by now. Come back again soon. We've got a Zettelkasten video coming up, not today, doing a little bit more work on that, and back to a theological topic again as well next week. God bless you. Come back again soon. We will talk next week.